name is Jing Hwayoung, and I escaped from North Korea. My parents were the first ones to flee to South Korea, but I always stayed in touch with them. They sent me money and other things I needed. I had a small business in North Korea selling cigarettes, gloves, and socks mostly to construction workers. In 2010, I finally escaped, and in 2011, I was reunited with my family in South Korea again.
Is it true that the people of North Korea believe that Kim Jong-il, as well as his father and grandfather, had superpowers? Or do people have to say this out of fear?
When you're a kid, you believe. It's about the same story as the Bible. But then everyone grows up and realizes that there's no point in such stories. But you have to know these stories one way or another, or you won't do well on tests or graduate from high school. People have only recently begun to be frank with their closest friends about how this kind of ideological education is absolutely useless. I've always felt that way too.
You say your parents fled first. Did the North Korean government know about this? Were you in trouble because of it?
Because of the constant power outages, DPRK residents often have no information about the weather. We took advantage of this and made up a story that my father died at sea, and my mother and the rest of the family went to look for his remains. When I was left alone, the secret police started dropping in on me. I stuck to our story, answered their questions confidently, and clearly explained why our family had to be separated. In addition, I know that they asked my neighbors to keep an eye on me, but I didn't really care. I pretended not to notice.
We know a lot about the military potential of the DPRK, about foreign policy, about loud statements. But I want to ask something about the culture of North Koreans. How do North Koreans celebrate a wedding?
North Korean women like everything to be very romantic. In North Korea, all girls wear traditional Korean dresses for weddings. But because of the growing popularity of foreign movies, Korean women increasingly want to wear white wedding dresses. But it's still forbidden. So, for now, they have to wear traditional wedding dresses and decorate and adapt them as much as possible. The ceremony itself takes place first at the groom's house and then at the bride's house. But if the family doesn't have that much money for food, then they all get together and make one feast.
What's it like to move from a country with no modern technology at all to a country with the internet and unlimited access to information from around the world?
It was as if I got into a time machine and was transported to the modern world. At first, I didn't understand a huge number of things, but I slowly learned everything. It was fun. Even trivial typing on the computer was something completely new and interesting to me. It's been 3 years now, but I still find new things for myself from time to time.
Do you feel that South Koreans treat you, a North Korean, with negativity and prejudice?
Discrimination among South Koreans does occur. It is especially felt in relation to Chinese Koreans. Because I speak a certain dialect that sounds very similar to the way Chinese Koreans from Northeast China speak, people sometimes ask where I'm from, and their tone is obviously negative. One time a cab driver asked my aunt where she was from. When she answered that she was from North Korea, the cab driver abruptly stopped the car and told her to get out. Regardless, I don't hide where I'm from, because at a distance it helps me adjust to my new life more than it hinders me.
I once volunteered at the London Olympics in 2012. It was very interesting to see so many different peoples and cultures from all over the world. One time I saw North Koreans walking through our Olympic village. These people look like zombies. There is no other way to describe it. There wasn't a bit of life in their eyes. It was as if they'd had all their personality sucked out of them. My question is this. When you lived in North Korea, how did you perceive people living in other parts of the world?
I can see why you thought they looked like zombies. It was extremely risky for them to show interest in their surroundings. And when one is afraid, one becomes stiff. When I lived in the DPRK, I didn't see foreigners as something horrible. I believed they were good. I always wanted to meet foreigners, but such thoughts are better kept to myself there. Once when I was in Cheongjin, it's a city in the northeast, I saw some Russian guy and was so fascinated by him that I stared at him until he turned into a little dot that soon merged with the horizon.
Can you share any incident from the past that inspired you and your parents to defect? I always imagined that people would flee when they were threatened by something very scary, especially considering how dangerous it can be to flee the DPRK.
My grandfather always told us that our generation must have freedom. He told us a lot about developed countries and modern technology. And my father listened to foreign radio illegally since he was 9 years old, and it had a big effect on all of us. We listened to South Korean radio, Radio Free Asia, Voice of America, and so on. From there, we also learned about the first people to flee the country. Foreign news gave us confidence, and not without its help, we were able to develop our escape plan.
You give people a rare opportunity to see real life in North Korea without all the distortions of the media. My next question will be, what took you the longest to get used to?
Hmm. Culture shock was waiting for me at every step. I had to get used to everything. Toilets, ATMs, electronic metro cards. Really everything. Elevators and escalators. It also took me a long time to get used to Kanglik, a borrowed word that is widely used in South Korea.
Wow, and the toilets took some getting used to. That's news to me. I thought most North Koreans had running water. Or is that only in Pyongyang?
I mean, there are toilets to sit on. In North Korea, everyone does their business in a squat. I didn't see the first toilet to sit on until I arrived in China. It was so incomprehensible to me that at first I climbed on it with my feet out of habit. By the way, when we were received by South Korean intelligence, all refugees from North Korea go through it. The authorities begged us not to climb on the toilets, but many refugees kept doing it, as they could not go to the toilet any other way. There is also such a gimmick among refugees as bidet showers. Every North Korean, when he sees a bidet for the first time, makes the same mistake. He thinks it's a shower and pours water all over himself. I had that too. But now I have my own bidet at home.
Many tourists who go to North Korea believe that their interaction with the local population has a positive effect on their opinion of foreigners. But there are people who say tourism is bad because most of the money from tourism goes to support the oppressive government. Do you think tourism is good or bad in the DPRK?
If tourists really get to interact with the local people, it's a good thing because North Koreans are very interested in understanding foreigners. Such communication makes them more friendly to foreigners, and they begin to understand that they are ordinary people. However, I also feel bad that the government gets foreign currency from this. So it's both good and bad.
I'm sure you have 1,000 reasons why you decided to run away. But if there's something you miss,
First, my friends and my neighbors, who were like family to me. They are sorely missed. Second, my hometown. Its air, its water, even the smell of the earth. I miss all that.
how did you feel when you came to South Korea and saw the quality of life available to its residents? How did you adapt? I'm very interested in the psychological turmoil of being in a completely different environment.
What shocked me was that South Koreans ate things every day that North Koreans only got on holidays. We had white rice only on special occasions, such as Kim Il sung's birthday, and not everyone could afford it. But in South Korea, even homeless people eat white rice. How did I adapt? Well, white rice is delicious, so the adaptation went well. Although sometimes I still miss North Korean food.
Did you watch any Western movies, shows, or soap operas while you were living in North Korea? If so, which ones?
Yes, all the time. I can't remember all the titles, but I definitely watched 007 James Bond, Landing Zone, Charlie's Angels, Count of Monte Cristo. I've watched a lot of things. We always thought that Western movies were much more progressive than South Korean ones.
We are often told that Pyongyang is this, Pyongyang is that. But what do North Koreans who live in a village somewhere think of Pyongyang?
People from the hinterland perceive people from Pyongyang as people from a completely different country. I think it's no secret that only those who are marked as most loyal by the party are allowed to live in Pyongyang. And, for example, if you want to go to Pyongyang as a tourist, you need a special travel permit. If I'm not mistaken, the regular permits have one red stripe on them, but the ones that let you go to Pyongyang have two red stripes on them.
Once upon a time there were protests in Tiananmen Square. On that day, hundreds of students were killed for speaking out in support of democracy. Do you think anything has changed since then in terms of protests? Or is speaking out against the North Korean authorities still a taboo subject?
I wasn't even born at the time, but I am aware of those events. In the 2000s, there was a very famous movie about it, and everyone was talking about it. When I was very young, adults told me about various coup attempts, but Kim Jong-il successfully suppressed them all. The leaders of the movements were either executed or sent to labor camps, so no one is in a big hurry to do this kind of thing there.
You said you were in business. Can you tell me more about markets and private enterprise in North Korea? I read somewhere that most of the business there is done by women. How true is that? What role do you think women will play in the North Korea of the future when it needs to be raised from the bottom?
The North Koreans have an expression in the North Korean market: you can find everything except cat's horn. That is, anything at all. Cats don't have horns, do they? Yes, when it comes to trade, it's mostly women who work in this business. Some men do trades sometimes too, but they usually do it on a much larger scale, and it always has something to do with smuggling goods across the border. I think women who are in private business will play a huge role in the future. They have access to information that most people don't have. In North Korea, such women in general are considered much more savvy than the average person. So yes, I think they will play a very big role.
I have friends from North Korea who had to change their names many times because they lived in North Korea, then in China, then in South Korea, then somewhere else. Do you have time to keep track of your names at all? How do you lose your name and not lose your positive attitude?
Yes, there are funny cases when refugees themselves are already confused about their names. It's the same with me. I still have my native name, but I use a different one in public. And I use my name so rarely that I can hardly go back to it, even if I wanted to. I started thinking more positively when I was in South Korea. Even though I had a lot of difficulties with the move, it was nothing compared to the dangerous life in North Korea. So I'm just living my life and enjoying everything that's going on.
Thank you very much for watching. In the comments below the video can write, what do you think about this topic? Plus watch other videos from our channel. Bye.